Want to know how strict my parents were? I'm talking no TV, no phones, no internet. I bet that is hard for you to imagine, huh? To be honest, I didn't know any different as we lived in an unconventional community. But then unexpectedly, we had to live in the real world. And let's just say, I was not prepared. The whole experience changed my life, and I had to pick between my old life and new. What do you think I chose? This was me. Apart from my mom, dad, and me, there were only 5 other families. And no, it wasn't a cult or a religious thing. Oh, I'm Arabella, and I'm 14. There wasn't a school as everyone was homeschooled, and no shops as soldiers would bring us basic supplies. I'm guessing you're wondering why, huh? I mean, I thought my parents were just super strict, but as it turns out, I was wrong. I made friends with a girl called Beth. I was only about a month younger than Beth. We'd climb trees and chat about where the soldiers might go after we saw them. Don't feel sorry for us. We didn't know any different. My mom was pregnant with me when she went there. And the best thing was that I got to spend loads of time with mom and dad. We did everything together, like learn which plants were poisonous and what was edible. Sound cool, right? I wasn't allowed toys or books, so I played fun games like hide until you hear mom or dad's voice. But it wasn't long before I started to question my surroundings as I got bored of doing the same routine over and over again and thought there has to be more. Where did the soldiers go? Then mom and dad told me about the real world. They said that they had been secretly training me for a career in combat as the real world was a really scary place. And to be honest, I accepted it. But then it all changed. It turns out that mom and dad and all those families were in a witness protection program as they saw a horrible crime. Our case was now closed, meaning that we could go back into the real world. I was upset I was going. We promised to stay in touch, but mom said we weren't allowed unless Beth got to go back into the real world too. I know, it sucked. So, mom and dad hadn't been super strict after all. There was no TV, so I didn't see the news reports about our family. No toys or books, so children didn't become competitive and want what someone else had. It was only intended to be temporary, and we'd stayed longer than expected. But first, they wanted to dye our hair to change our appearance. Standard procedure. I didn't get a chance to see mine as we were soon shoved in a car and then on a plane where I fell asleep. And for the first time, I woke up in the real world. And maybe it was the jet lag, but it was like everybody looked the same. I was shocked. And weirdly, I didn't see any need to build a fire, purify some water, or build temporary shelter. Anyway, they had this silky smooth long blonde hair and dressed in bright colors, and they had the tiniest waist. How did they look like that, I thought? How would I ever fit in? But then I saw my reflection. I was a blonde too. Mom hated our new hair, and dad said we could dye it back as soon as the 3-month settling in period was over. But I loved it. And my bedroom, it was amazing. And I couldn't wait to go to school, even though mom kept going on about how I should be wary of fake people who might try to manipulate me. Ever since we got to the real world, that's all mom did. Be negative and cynical. But I didn't get on well at school. I'd never been to one before, so I didn't know how to act. When the teacher asked me to tell everyone about myself, I said that mom and dad saw this really bloody crime where and then I learned that day about editing yourself, so your conversation is appropriate. I also really missed Beth. Although I had blonde hair like most of the other girls, mine wasn't smooth like theirs as I didn't know how to make it like that. Is that why nobody spoke to me? But then one day, this girl, Lottie, asked why my bag looked heavy. I said, battery packs and mini solar panels are heavy. Anyway, they all laughed until they realized I was serious, and I explained to them how I was training for a career in combat. Lottie said, combat and what else? I said, nothing else. Lottie said she wanted to be an astronaut and a doctor. Rue wanted to be a vet and an aerobics instructor. Bindi, a pilot and lifeguard. I was like, what? They were deciding their careers for themselves. I wanted to find out what else I didn't know about the real world, and Lottie, Rue, and Bindi were more than happy to show me. They said the first thing I needed was a makeover. I learned that a girl should have more clothes than she will ever need. I learned that to get your hair smooth, you need to iron it. Crazy, huh? And a girl should never leave the house in the sins of all fashion, a flat or low heel. Soon they took me under their wing. They taught me to do fun things like go shopping and rollerblading and hang out by the pool. And we loved drinking water. Actually, the only downside of my new lifestyle was that there was all this delicious food like pizza and burgers, but we weren't supposed to eat any of it, so we always looked our best. I didn't tell them, but sometimes I felt a bit lightheaded. I'd have to get up super early to get ready and try to cram in some study. Looking perfect all the time took a lot of time. I was loving the real world so much that I'd hardly spend time with mom and dad anymore. One day, Mom told me that the school had called. I was failing most subjects. She suggested we should move somewhere where the lifestyle is more relaxed. I was like, no, please, I'll try harder. Then she got all serious, said she was concerned I wasn't eating enough and wasn't being healthy. She said my friends couldn't see it, but when I wasn't wearing makeup, I looked really pale. The truth is I had been feeling more lightheaded lately, but I was not going to tell her that. She said she was worried my new friends didn't have my best interests at heart. I said they were the kindest people I know, but still gave me her disappointed look. But I didn't study more or eat better. And then something happened that changed everything. Beth turned up. A blonde like me. She said she hardly recognized me as I had lost loads of weight. And the best thing was, we would be attending the same school. I couldn't wait to introduce her to my new friends. They immediately wanted to give her a makeover, but guess what? Beth said no, and yup, cue the gasps. I said, don't you want to fit in? And she said she did already. She said she hated her blonde hair and wished it was blue. She said she hated looking like everyone else. And shockingly, when Lottie said she wanted to be an astronaut and a doctor, Beth said that was ridiculous as both those careers took focus and hard work and she wasn't living in the real world if she thought she could do both. Then I saw Lottie, Rue, and Bindi make fun of Beth. I realized I had looked just like her. Did they do that to me before I had a makeover? And what happened next was even more shocking. Beth said she didn't want to hang out with Lottie, Rue, and Bindi as they were fake and only cared about appearances. She said they only liked me because I conformed, that they dressed me up like I was their doll. Well, that was it. I said she should go. I felt bad. Beth had always looked out for me and had been honest and real. Was she right? Did they treat me like a doll? I had to find out. But then I felt funny and everything went blurred and I fainted. A diet of mainly water will do that to you. Mom didn't say I told you so. She said that her and Dad had put all their paranoia onto me when the best way to prepare for the real world was to live it. She said she knows she isn't as glamorous as my new friends, but I could talk to her about anything I was worried about. I said I didn't have any new friends. Lottie, Rue, and Bindi did not visit. Lottie said the hospital's decor would not look good on her Insta posts. Rue didn't want to smell like a hospital, and Bindi worried the hospital floor might be slippery in her heels. I know. How stupid are they, right? Beth had been right. They only cared about appearances, and I'd been so mean to her. I said I wanted to spend more time with Mom and Dad again. And Beth came to see me. Her hair looked great. She was a true friend who liked me, flaws and all. And stop everything. You'll never guess what else. You know that day I got off the plane and saw the real world for the first time? It turns out there was a convention for the launch of an actual toy doll, so everyone was just dressed up like the doll because it was popular or whatever. I think just like when I was in the witness protection program, I just took what was right in front of me as given. Like fish think all there is the sea, right? And it wasn't long until Lottie, Rue, and Bindi jumped onto another fad and forgot all about me and Beth. And as we all know, appearances can be deceiving. Oh, and if you want to know how they got on when we had to rough it on a school camping trip, comment dolls go camping. So, what do you think my hair color will be? Brown or blonde? Anything I want it to be.